Sneakers and Cleats, the podcast.
Welcome in, everybody, to another edition of Sneakers and Cleats, episode 180 on Monday, March 17th. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody.
Yes, we're doing a 180. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, there we go.
We're doing a
complete 180. So what would be the opposite of green to wear today? I don't know. Can't remember the color
Yellow?
spectrum there. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Perhaps.
But Tree Guys talking sports today on St. Patty's Day. Always a good day for the Irish because, hey, Roy McIlroy won the Players in a tournament this morning over JJ Spawn. So
Chuck, go. Always have to be Lucky Charms.
There we go.
Blue moons, pink clovers,
Pink hearts,
silver stars,
orange stars, green
basketball
clovers.
team.
Yes. There we go. We got our Irish in today. I'm wearing this parka because not only is it cold in here, but it's to hide the green shirt that I have on today. So everybody's got green on a little bit, I think, right?
No green for me.
Well, that's all right.
It's just another holiday, Zach.
It is.
Once you get to be our age, Don and I, yeah, it's just another holiday.
Yep.
We both had green beer before we came in here.
That's good. Drink responsibly, everybody.
Yes,
all right, a few topics to get over today. The Spurs out in LA, a makeup game after the LA wildfires earlier this year, but also of note, maybe more importantly, De'Aaron Fox headed for surgery tomorrow. We'll duck into that a little bit. Kind of, he explained the reasoning why. I think everybody kind of knows at this point, but it's kind of worth hearing from his lips what the reasoning is. And then also it's March Madness. It's finally here. The brackets came out yesterday. We were there to see it all unfold. We're going to get our picks for which 4 teams will be arriving here in San Antonio early next month. And then also diving into the women's team at UTSA not making the national tournament. So let's get right to it. The Spurs, 16 games remaining on the season. The makeup game is tonight. You can it's like 6 in one hand, half dozen the other, I think, at this point now. They won against the Pelicans on Saturday night, but I think there's still a camp out there that are saying, Don is, I think, one of them, the more games you lose, the more lottery chances you get. So just what do you make of these last 16 games? They're not going to get to the bottom because there's other teams ahead of them.
I don't know, because the last time I checked, when I looked at the standings late last night, they're 2.5 out.
3 right now.
And people want to lose. And people might be doing a better job of losing than the Spurs when you saw them beat the Pelicans. Now, Fox going out and the schedule that's left, you would assume they don't make the play-in. But that depends on how hard they try not to make the play-in, because I think there's the Mavericks included are teams that are going to try to make the lottery.
And the Mavericks are in that 10 spot, I think, right now. Chuck, I think you're on the opposite side of this a little bit. It's like, hey, 3 games out, you got 16 games. There's still mathematically a chance for them to get in.
I mean, as far as I'm concerned, if there's a game to be played and there's a scoreboard, then, there's a competition. And I think the guys that are there are going to try to win. It's can they win, right? I mean, they beat the Pelicans the other night, but I mean, you look at that box score and you're thinking, how did they do it? They got outshot. They got out rebounded. The one thing they did, though, playing small ball, was they had 10 steals in that game and they shot it pretty well from 3. So, I mean, that's probably the way they're going to have to win. I just don't know if they're going to, I think they're going to put their best effort forward. I mean, you're not going to find a single guy, I think, that steps on the floor that's going to go out there and go, I'm just going to roll over. I mean, I don't see that happening for an entire game. So it'll be fascinating to see. I mean, again, this schedule's really jacked up for them, right? I mean, this is a makeup game now. They're going to go back to the West Coast, going to play a late game, then they're going to come back and play on Wednesday, and then they're back on the road for 3 games. You got to cross the border, go through customs, do all that when you go to Toronto later in the week. So it's going to be very, very challenging no matter who plays. But, I hope like hell we see them give everybody as many fits as they can possibly give them, and then maybe see if they can win a game or 2 and make this thing really interesting the last week.
And see, I think it's a culture thing, right? It's like, yes, Mitch Johnson and yes, the players on the court want to win and will play their tails off to win. You want that. You want them to give 100%. You don't want anybody to throw a game. At the same time, if you're Brian Wright and you're the assistant GM and maybe even RC Buford and you're in the front office, you say, Okay, De'Aaron Fox had his best game the other night at 34 points, whatever he did.
Mhm.
And then immediately, he's having surgery next week. So yeah, we're going to give you Malachi Branham and Mamu. Now go try to win. But the front office and the coaching staff and the front office doesn't want to send the message to the players to not try hard.
Sure.
But I think they're doing a good job. The Spurs have always, in the 3 times that they've won the lottery, they've done a good job of managing how to get there.
And given the players that they do have available, something that we did see in that New Orleans game at the end is the young guys were given the opportunity. It's like, hey, you've got a lead, go close out a game. They did. They made enough plays. Devin Vassell getting a big shot, which was probably a good thing to see for him. He had 20 points 2 nights in a row on a back-to-back. So what kind of hope does that give you for these young guys, to develop and maybe learn some things, without the veteran leadership and big name guys like Victor and De'Aaron?
Well, there's a lot on the line still, right? Steph Castle's probably the favorite for Rookie of the Year, although it's probably close. So he's got a lot to play for. Devin's trying to get into some sort of rhythm after struggling most of the season. And, he's flashy. Streaky right now, but he shows you great nights and bad nights. And look, these guys are playing for contracts. These guys are playing for futures. Malachi was up at UTSA the other day on an off day because he's not getting any work. And then I wouldn't be surprised if he asked for it, but the next day they sent him to Austin.
Right.
So he's playing in the G League. This guy wants to have a career, and you're not doing anything rotten on the bench. And so a lot of these guys have a lot to play for. So I think there's a lot of growth to be had too going into next year.
Chuck?
Yeah, without a doubt. There's a lot you can learn. There's a lot that the coaching staff and the front office can learn about the guys that do get a chance to play. And, hopefully they make this thing, interesting down the stretch. Remember the Texans a couple years ago, everybody was pissed off because they won the last game of the season because, those players that were out there, they didn't give a damn about somebody trying to get the first round pick or get the first pick in the draft. These are guys with pride, and, I would assume you don't get to this point without a lot of that. So I'm sure we're going to see the best of what they've got going down the stretch.
So in LA tonight, playing the Lakers, it's a late tip-off out there in California. No LeBron James tonight, but you've also got Luka Doncic, Austin Reeves. That's a pretty potent scoring duo right there. This is also coming off a couple games ago where Charlotte lit them up and had 145. Now, granted, they were shooting the ball very, very well. It was up near the 66% mark from 3 for the Hornets. What are you hoping to see in tonight's game, trying to shut down a player with the caliber like that Luka has?
Well, they won't shut him down.
He's going to get 30.
Whenever he plays the Spurs, he seems to have 40. Luka has been a Spur killer in Dallas. I don't know. I'm anxious to see how the Lakers look too, because I haven't watched them very much since that trade. And I think a lot of people think they're going to be pretty good.
Does Steph Castle get the assignment of guarding Luka, you think?
I'm sure some, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, running a bunch of different guys at him and just make his life as miserable as possible.
Changing up the looks. Yeah, for sure.
But the Lakers have a lot of young talent, Hachimura and who's the other guy that you just mentioned?
Oh, Austin Reeves.
Austin Reeves, yeah. Those guys are both coveted by other NBA teams.
Mm-hmm. So we'll see how that one shakes out tonight. Of course, tomorrow, the one player is going to be staying in the LA area, and that's De'Aaron Fox, headed for his first surgery of his career. That is, if you don't count his LASIK surgery. He was joking with that on Friday. So probably an expected move, or at least one that many kind of suspected would happen at some point. Fox only playing 17 games. The recovery time, Fox himself saying this, is about 12 weeks. So that would probably put him in the neighborhood of June, July, I think, when he's going to be fully healthy and ready to go. And that's probably when off-season workouts start going and everything. Here's Fox himself kind of explaining the decision-making process between him and the Spurs of going ahead and pulling the trigger on surgery.
The big thing was, what was the recovery time? Did we want to risk having to, miss, would it be half the offseason or whatever it may be? So, you want to be able to get, a full offseason in with the guys and being able to be on the court. So that was really a big part of the decision making.
Earlier the better.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously, like I said, I've been playing with it all season. So, like, it was what it was, if I had to finish the season like that. But a big part was, we want to be able to grow together in the offseason as well.
So looking ahead already, I mean, I know there's that, Don, you were talking about it, that fine balance of, what the Spurs tried to do, walk that fine edge.
If they were playing for something, he'd be playing, and he can play, and he's playing great.
Right.
But they're acknowledging they're not playing for anything.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a good way to continue to not play for anything and be done with it early and get all that work in for next season.
Bob, what do you got?
Tom Guerrero is in the house.
Shout
There we
out
go.
Tom G.
Tom says the Spurs set the precedent in losing the last 2 years. The other teams are just catching on.
Playing 4D chess.
I'm
a little
anxious to
bit.
see how
Yes.
good Dallas gets at it.
Well, there was that one season, right, where they just kind of outright, and I think the league fined them, wasn't it? They just said, "Hey, can't do that."
Right.
They admitted Cuban said
Just
we're
went right
tanking.
out. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
The Spurs were craftier. Chuck and I both remember the 96, 97 season where the Spurs were masters at having like 7 available players.
Well, I mean, they were really banged up, though.
They
I mean, that
were.
was legitimately banged up.
They were.
So I don't remember there being any, well, at least I wasn't thinking at the time there was any chicanery. They just kept dropping like flies and things worked out. But I think things work out when you do things the right way, right? If you're purposely losing games, if you're the Wizards, I mean, these teams that have constantly stay in this loser mode, they never get out of it.
Yeah.
And, there's a reason why some of these teams like Washington are still languishing, trying to figure it all out.
Wouldn't it be funny if Washington's trying to lose all these games for Cooper Flag, and then if
He
they win the
decides
lottery,
to-
he goes back to school?
It would be hilarious. Yes.
be careful what you wish
There's
for.
been
Huh?
some talk about that.
That's
Yeah.
right.
So, what have you seen? Just 17 games here. Fox kind of getting his feet wet with everybody. Of course, Wemby going down. That kind of hampers the cohesion a little bit of just getting everybody used to each other. What have you seen? Just of course, we've seen the late game heroics. He's a clutch. He's a proven closer. What are you looking forward to most next season as they really get everything gelling together?
With the risk of, again, beating up on the trio of guys that I've beat up on over the last couple of years. I don't mean to, but this season, the addition of De'Aaron Fox and Steph Castle are 2 guys who know how to play, who share the ball, who make the right play, and who play complete team basketball. And I think that's rubbed off on Devin, Keldon, Jeremy to an extent, and that those guys, it's hard to coach, but it's easy to get when you play with somebody who plays like that.
Mm-hmm.
When you have a guy who gives them, I'll give you a perfect example. Anytime you see a 3-on-1 fast break, you're always taught in high school, make the defender commit and make the late pass for the layup or the dunk or the oop or
Or
whatever.
the open shot. Yeah.
And you would always see those guys I mentioned put their head down and go all the way to the rim and not even worry about the other 2 guys on the break with them.
Mm-hmm.
Fox always makes the defender commit and then dishes off for a dunk. Castle makes the right play. You're starting to see the other guys make those right plays now. And I think it's because of those 2. And I think it's really, really important for the future. And I think those 2 are now part of the big 3. The future big 3 to me is Wemby, Fox, Castle.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the other guys will be role players.
It was fascinating to me, Zach, you were talking about the timeline for De'Aaron Fox coming back. I mean, that's a significant amount of time to, be healing up, right? And I'm sure when he got here and his hand was already jacked up because it happened back in October, you have to learn how to play differently when your hand is jacked up, especially when it's your shooting hand. So he's going to get this done and he's going to have to learn how to play with his hand basically rebuilt.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be a transition period, just like there was when he was learning to play when it was hurt, to now that your hand is fully functional again, to get that feeling back, because you're never going to be completely the same after you go through surgery. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah.
So, the digit's going to be a lot more sturdy. So I think, this summer is going to be very important for a lot of reasons, right? More bonding, more gelling, more figuring out how to play with one another. And then, for De'Aaron Fox to figure out how to play with your hand coming back.
Reconstruct. Yeah. He
And
also
for De'Aaron Fox, more money. Lots
Yes.
and lots of money this summer.
and to Fox's credit, he played through this entire season with this jacked up finger. And if you see it, he's got the Kobe tape job, taping his pinky and his fourth finger, his ring finger together. You can kind of see it in this next cut that we're going to play, as long as the super doesn't cover it up here a little bit. But he just talks about playing through this, what I imagine is a pretty painful thing if you don't have this tape job done on your finger.
If I didn't tape it, like, it's just in the way. Anytime I try to catch the ball, like, it's the first thing that, like, I've worked out without it and I've hit it, like, while working out. So that was like a main reason of why I had to continue to tape it, just to get it out of the way. Obviously, shooting the ball with 4 fingers is a tough thing to do, but like, if it was my right hand, I think it'd be fine. Like, I think I'd continue to try to play with it, but it being my left hand, it affecting the way that I could dribble and shoot and all of that.
All right. So, I mean, to his credit, played through a lot and played well, considering just everything that he did. So, Chuck, I think that's a good point to mention. It's 12 weeks just to get kind of fully cleared, but who knows how long. It could be another 2-3 weeks before it finally feels normal again, right? Getting used to that new feeling of, okay, yeah, I'm not self-conscious about it, maybe, of trying to catch a ball or receive a pass or whatever.
Yeah, and you see when he just holds up his hand, I mean, his pinky looks like it's lagging. So, again, he's a shooter. He's made his bones in this league because he knows how to shoot and get to the hole, all that stuff. And, if you got one of your fingers that's lagging on the ball, I'm sure it does a trick on altering your shot.
Bob, how we doing? We doing all right over there?
Yeah. Hanover Fist is back, and just wanted to say hello to the
Hello.
SNC
Hanover
crew.
Fist.
And he says, "This. I thought this might be a little controversial." He says, "Fox easily best player on the team, and probably can't even palm a basketball with his left hand." And Tom is back with another comment. By the way, Houston is taking the NCAA championship this year, so
Let's hope so.
a little preview of what's to come.
Yeah,
Yes.
we're getting to the March Madness here in a second. Quickly before we move on from the Spurs, Chuck, I know you were kind of just wondering about this a little bit. We also talked to Sandro Mamukelashvili. He's always a great guy to talk to. Steph Castle got his tires taken from his car after the win against Dallas the other week. And so he spilled a little bit more detail about just how it all went down. Looked like something out of Ocean's 11 a little bit. Sandro did say that he checked with CP3, Harrison Barnes, and Keldon Johnson, all the vets on the team, just to kind of get the green light. Sandro also mentioned he talked to Damian, which, maybe somebody with the Spurs security team or something like that. But here's how the tire heist went down during the game while against the Mavericks the other night.
Face is saying, no, we have the guy we want.
We have the guy we want. The team,
Well,
the
that's
locker room
Oso.
loves Shotty. And I think that's part of where it starts. And I believe he's a smart guy.
That's a different bite. Yeah. So that's a
Osa.
different bite from Oso Odigizua getting the bottle of champagne from Brian Schottenheimer. But Sandro was talking about, they wanted to make sure that they got a win. They weren't going to do the prank if they were ending up on the losing end. So
Wow.
Maybe they should plan this more often.
You can do it quickly then.
Yeah, there were some guys that he was working with behind the bench, and he's given hand signals like when they had the lead, he's giving them thumbs up, let's go. And if not, it's like, so it went back and forth a little bit. It was a little touch and go, but they were
I
really
wonder about payback.
well, and that's what Sandro was also worried about. He's just like, I've been hiding my keys, hiding my phone, making sure nobody's getting, any payback because if you saw the video from Vassell's Instagram live, Castle's first reaction was, he immediately put up his dukes and was, just play fighting a little bit. But I mean, any other rookie prank stories from your guys' career of covering the NBA that leap to mind?
Well, ours go way back, so we couldn't repeat them.
Nothing comes to mind, really.
Shaq is, Shaq's always had the best, and the best, funniest stories that I've ever heard My brother-in-law coached Shaq in Phoenix, and Shaq was known for what he called, what was it? Amazon Warrior Naked Wrestling Day. That was once a week. Shaq would go into the showers after a practice and then oil himself up with baby oil and then come out completely naked and attack a coach, an assistant coach, a player, a ball boy, whoever, mostly players. And as big as he is, it didn't matter if you fought him or not, he would grab them, wrestle them to the floor, and then just rub himself all over his teammates. This gargantuan human being. And everybody was afraid of being the victim of that. He also put popcorn in cars, those moving popcorn.
Oh, sure.
And,
yeah, they talked about that too. I think we got Sandro now, and here he explains, how the heist went down.
I said we're not doing the prank if we lose because it's not a good way to do it. I think we should win, make sure like everybody enjoys it the fullest. So I was sitting there like this. And then like once we secured a little bit of the lead, I'm like, come on, like go. So it was kind of fun. I'm happy we all enjoyed it. We won the game, the most important. And then, hopefully my car is safe. It doesn't get keyed or stolen or anything. And, shout out to Steph. He has been amazing. He has been having an amazing rookie year, and I wish him nothing but the best.
So all's well that ends well.
He's a great guy.
So Sandro's always a great interview whenever he gets a chance to talk. So yeah, I hope we get to see a lot more of him. All right. Moving on here to March Madness. It is finally here. The bracket's coming out yesterday. Don, you got a chance to talk with UTSA head coach Austin Clonch yesterday. He knows something about reaching the Final Four.
Yeah.
Getting to Alabama, helping the Alabama reach that before coming here to UTSA. We're going to, predict here, narrow it down to who are your Final Four teams that are going to be playing here in San Antonio come April. So who do you like to get here in about just under 3 weeks' time?
Man, I reserve the right to change between now and Thursday. And I haven't really studied the bracket yet because I've been busy with some other stuff. But right off the bat, and I was unaware of Walter Clayton Jr. and Florida. I mean, I knew Florida was tearing up the SEC, but I had not watched them play. After watching them play 2 games against really good teams in Alabama and Tennessee and destroying both of them, I see them as a really hard out because you have to have great guards, and this kid is Jason Kidd reincarnated. That said, I like Houston. I like their length, their size. I'm a little worried about Jawan Roberts being in a boot. I like Duke, but then they've got Cooper Flagg, also
ankle.
injury, and Malik is also hurt for them. Auburn's been the number 1 team all year. But again, I mean, the number 1 seeds are hard to go against this year. Tennessee's a 2. They could do something. St. John's is a 2. They could do something. I don't necessarily see a real incredible Cinderella making that kind of noise. If I'm having to force to choose a Final Four, I would go with Duke. I would go with Houston. I would go with Florida. I'm not sure Auburn hasn't been playing great. So, I could see it. I could see Iowa State making noise, but I don't see them going to the Final Four. So I don't know.
Chuck, how about you?
I'm not even going to go through the exercise, Zach. I mean,
I'm going to say Iowa State.
Anybody who's known me or known me for even longer than a year knows that if I fill out a bracket, you would be smart to look exactly what I've taken and go the opposite, and you will win every pool you've ever been in when it comes to this. I mean, I'm hoping literally that it's some shape or form of Texas, Tech, U of H, and A&M.
All the Texas schools.
Why not? That would be so freaking cool.
And Houston, right?
Yeah.
Well, and Houston, you went through their schedule. Just the only teams that they've lost to are tournament teams. It was Alabama, Auburn, San Diego State, Tech. That was a game that was kind of off the rails there in Houston too. So Houston, a real strong chance. And Kelvin Sampson, again, 4 straight years they've reached at least the Sweet 16.
The
So
thing
it's
I-
going to,
Three
the thing-
number one seeds in a row.
yeah,
I
it's
mean,
going to
the
be
thing
hard
I
to go
like
against
about-
Houston.
the thing I like about Houston is the fact that they just don't take their foot off the gas. They keep coming. They're totally relentless. Doesn't matter who's on the court for them. I mean, I think this team has really taken on the personality of its head coach. They got a little swag. They kind of talk about the fact that, they won the conference tournament back in October. I mean, they've looked at this. So now we'll see if they can walk the walk. I'm looking forward to
My
it.
only concern with Houston is they live by the 3, and this is not a 7-game series, right? So you have one really bad day
And that could
shooting, and it can
yeah.
hurt you. They
Mhm.
they really really shoot a lot of threes. They're good. They make a ton. That Cryer kid is really good in this
And-
transfer from Oklahoma. Uzan.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
Mhm.
he's fantastic.
Milos Uzan. Mhm.
Yeah.
And Emmanuel Sharp has really kind of
Yeah.
he played well during the Big 12 tournament. For those listening in and chiming in, who is your pick to make the Final Four, and how many brackets are you planning to fill out? What's y'all's average, guys, on just how many brackets do you end up filling out, just all told?
One, and I'm usually done by noon on day 2.
I never fill out 2 in the same pool.
Uh-huh.
So just one,
Per
and then I'll do like a side one.
Bob, how about
Yeah,
you?
but-
How many are you filling out?
Well, the last time I did a bracket a couple years ago, I took the team that was farthest north in each game. That didn't work out really well. I think this year, I've heard other people doing this. Is I'm going to compare the mascots and like who would win in a fight between the 2 mascots.
There you go.
And make that my pick.
You might
all
as
the way
well.
through.
Some,
But
yeah,
how much I know about college
That
basketball.
seems
right.
like the
Sometimes that
appropriate way to go about doing this.
Chris Suchan was the one that won. He took the top honors, I think, in the bracket
He's
challenge
a
last
soothsayer.
year. Here,
He
yeah,
does this for a living.
right, yeah, he
prognosticates the
predicts.
future.
So it's like,
why
hey,
am I not surprised?
why not? So
Yes.
yeah, it's always fun to fill out the brackets. So we'll see kind of what shakes out here. I was really big on Auburn, but yeah, Florida has shown something. But why not Houston? I think they maybe get it done this year just because they've got some dudes this year.
We got to have at least one Texas team here for the final.
You would
4.
think, right?
Got
And then
to.
how about Texas playing in the first 4, the one of the first 4 games? Do they get past Xavier and get in and go against Illinois here?
If
I
they
would think
shoot
so.
it, yeah. I mean, they got to shoot the ball, but they've got a lot of good athletes, but I don't know at times that Texas necessarily plays well together. But sure pulling for them, that's for sure. And what about, we were laughing yesterday, like Texas is one of the first 4 teams out. It's like a brand that big is not ever going to be one of the first 4 teams out. They'll be one of the first 4 teams that get into one of those last 4 spots.
I'm going to go with the SEC team in just about every game other than Ole Miss, North Carolina.
Yeah. SEC has 14 teams in the
Yeah.
field this
And
year, which
Carolina,
is just crazy.
shout out Carolina. Did you guys see that?
North Carolina?
Yeah, how
Yeah.
they got in.
They got
Their
Their
little help.
AD was the chairman of the selection committee.
funny how that works out. Speaking of selection committees, the UTSA women's team not selected for the women's tournament. I don't think a big surprise to many, just given what happened in the conference tournament, losing to Rice in the quarterfinals. And I think Karen Aston, the women's head coach, said as much during her press availability today. But guys, your reaction of just a 26-3 team, 26-4 if you count the postseason record. They're headed to the WBIT.
Answer me this. Going into the ACC tournament, I was told by the announcers, Cooper Flag, or going in after the quarterfinals when Cooper Flag got hurt, Duke can lose this game, their first game in the ACC tournament, and not only still make the tournament, but be a 1 seed. They're not going to lose their 1 seed no matter what. UTSA has a similar situation. Now, obviously, they're not in the ACC, but they're 26-3 going into their tournament. They've clinched. I would think that they could not even go to the American and still have a secure bid because how much they dominated the conference. I don't think that's always true in the American. I don't think you always think that the champion of the American is worthy.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that the regular season that they had, I think they overthink these net ratings and RPIs and all that stuff. Dude, let Chuck rant about this. Dude, they're 26-3 before the tournament. Player of the year, coach of the year, complete domination of the tournament of the all conference teams, and they have a hiccup and you leave them out completely. They're better. Chuck said, what is it? Lehigh's in it, 15 and 11. Like Lehigh? Like, come on, man. I mean, that's just so disrespectful
Chuck,
to the Americans.
Chuck, jump in here.
Yeah, I mean, I've been fuming on this for 3 days. This reminds me of the Dez catch in a lot of ways, right? The rule says, the RPI says that it's a catch, right? Or it's not a catch. And then you go and you see with your own 2 eyes, everything about the play looks like it's a catch, right? And then the rule says it's not a catch. So this looks like to me too, how does this not pass the eye test? When you've gone through an entire season, you won your conference regular season title, you only had 1 loss in that conference, you're just outside the quote unquote Power 5.
Mm-hmm.
How does a team with only 4 losses and wins their conference title not get in, even as a 16 seed?
Mm-hmm.
Give me a freaking break. Like, it doesn't pass the eye test,
Right.
the smell test, any test imaginable in any scenario. RPI, whatever rating index that they're using, I get it. Strength of schedule, all that. But, talking to yesterday, we jumped on a Zoom with the chairperson from the NCAA. I bet you $5 she doesn't even know. If I would have said UTSA, that she would have even known what school we were talking about.
Well,
so, it was a generic answer as to why they didn't get in. And, I don't know what the reasoning is. They said there were 37 slots, but to me, you're acting as though there's only, the Power 5s and then some other schools, but how are you going to dismiss a conference, a Division I conference like the AAC? It's just befuddling to me on many, many levels.
Chuck, you mentioned talking to Dorita Dawkins, the chair of the Women's Selection Committee. You asked her the question, and this was her response right here on why UTSA did not make the field.
Looking at all of the parity across women's basketball, it did make for some really difficult conversations about who was in the tournament and who wasn't. Like I said, we spent an inordinate amount of time over the last 5 days combing through all of the team sheets, looking very closely. Our committee members are assigned to conferences and watch them primarily through the regular season. There's also a secondary from our committee, and then collectively we watch games. So it comes down to who do we think are the 37 best teams available for those at-large spots that we have.
So
not one of the best 37. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. So UTSA women are heading out to Washington.
Even worse.
Yeah.
They should be hosting.
Undefeated at home this year, and they're on the road. 26 wins. They're on the road in the first round.
Not just on the road, they're playing at the home.
It's an away game. It's an away game
of the team they're playing.
Of Gonzaga. Yep, playing Gonzaga on Thursday in Spokane for the WBIT. Now it is the second straight season that the UTSA women are playing in the postseason, so that's a feather in their cap.
Yeah.
But, still, what a season by Coach Aston and her players. I know they're just chomping at the bit to try and get over the hump next year. So, Bob, got anything else on the way out here?
Well, I asked. I'm trying to use AI to figure out my bracket. All right, so I asked both Chat GPT and Gemini. It's funny, they both pick Florida and Duke as the last two.
There you go.
But ChatGPT takes Florida and Gemini takes Duke.
So if we get a perfect bracket this year and somebody uses AI, would it be an asterisk? Because it's like, no, come on, you gotta fill it on your own. Just gut feeling.
Nobody uses any of the other data out there,
right?
That's the beauty of March Madness. You can have all the intelligence you want, even artificial intelligence, and it doesn't matter what's the ball tip, baby. Are you serious? It's rock and roll time.
There we go.
All right.
That's going to wrap it up for us today. Everybody have a great St. Patrick's Day. Be sure to subscribe to the News 4 and Fox San Antonio YouTube pages as well. Matt's back on Thursday. Have a great St. Patty's Day, everybody. We'll see you.